The desert world was quiet under the heat of two suns. The sand stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by tall ridges and scattered stones. The wind moved slowly, carrying fine grains that made the horizon look like a golden haze. Ryan walked across the land with steady steps. His boots sank slightly into the soft ground, leaving a clear trail behind him. He carried a scanner on his shoulder, its faint light sweeping across the dunes as it searched for unusual shapes buried under the surface. Ryan was not a soldier or a trader. He was an explorer. He loved to find places that no one had seen in centuries. The desert world was far from any busy spaceport, and very few cared about it. But Ryan had studied old star maps that showed signs of forgotten settlements here. He wanted to know what stories were hidden beneath the sand. For days he had traveled across the ridges, camping at night beside his small rover. The desert was difficult, but Ryan felt calm. The stars were bright above him, and the silence of the desert gave him time to think. Most days he found only broken stones and dust, yet he kept moving with hope. On the 7th day of his journey, the scanner gave a sharp sound. Ryan stopped and looked at the display. It showed a shape beneath the sand, a large curve that did not belong to natural rock. His heart beat faster as he brushed the ground with his gloves. Soon he uncovered a smooth surface. It was not stone, but something stronger, dark and polished, as if made to last forever. The more he brushed, the more he saw. A dome was buried under the sand, only the top part visible. Strange lines were carved across it, forming patterns that glowed faintly in the sunlight. Ryan touched the carvings. They felt warm, as if energy still flowed through them even after countless years. He stepped back and stared at the dome. It looked ancient, yet it had not been broken by time. He could feel the air change around it. The desert felt less empty now, as though the dome carried a presence that watched him quietly. Ryan opened his communicator and spoke to the research station orbiting above the planet. His voice was calm but filled with excitement. "I found something. A structure under the desert. I need a team here." The reply came quickly. The station had been waiting for news, and now they were eager. Within hours, a shuttle was on its way. Ryan waited near the dome, watching as the winds shifted more sand away, revealing more of the carvings. Each figure etched into the dome showed a tall human holding a long spear. The spears seemed to shine when the sun touched them, and the faces of the figures looked proud and steady. By the time the shuttle arrived, the top of the dome was clear enough to show a great doorway. A group of researchers stepped out of the shuttle. They carried tools, scanners, and bright lamps. Among them was Lauren, a quiet scientist who often worked with Ryan. She smiled when she saw the dome. "You were right," she said softly. "Something important is here." Together they set up their equipment. The scanners showed that the dome was hollow inside, and the space within was enormous. The doorway was sealed but not broken. It seemed to be waiting. The carvings across it matched the figures above, rows of warriors holding spears, their bodies shining with lines that looked like flowing rivers. Night fell, and the desert grew cool under the starlight. The team camped near the dome, lamps glowing softly against the dark surface. Ryan sat close to the carvings, tracing them with his fingers. He wondered who had built this place and why it had been buried. He thought of the warriors with their spears. Were they only symbols, or did they tell of real people who had once lived here? The wind moved gently, carrying whispers across the sand. Ryan closed his eyes and listened. For a moment he felt as if the desert itself was speaking. He opened his eyes again and looked at the dome. It seemed alive in the starlight, its carvings glowing more clearly than before. The team gathered around the doorway. They wanted to find a way inside, but they also felt careful. The structure was not just old stone. It was something greater. The golden light in the carvings made it seem as though the dome was aware of their presence. Laren spoke in a thoughtful voice. "This is not only a building. It is a message. Whoever made this wanted it to be found." Ryan nodded. He felt the same. The desert world was no longer empty. It carried a secret, and now that secret was slowly waking. The night passed with quiet wonder. The team rested near the dome while Ryan stayed awake for long hours, watching the faint glow of the carvings. He knew this was only the beginning. The desert had given him a gift, and soon the chamber would reveal its story. The morning sun rose above the desert, painting the sky in soft gold and red. The air was cool and the sands looked calm, as if the world itself waited for something. Ryan stood beside the dome, brushing sand from his boots. He had not slept much. His thoughts were full of the carvings and the faint glow that had appeared at night. The research team gathered near the great doorway. Their tools were ready, but they did not rush. The doorway looked sealed, yet it carried no sign of damage or decay. It was perfect, as if built only yesterday. The carvings across it showed rows of tall warriors holding spears close to their bodies, their faces calm and steady. Lauren placed her palm against the door. The lines beneath her touch shimmered faintly like ripples on water. She looked at Ryan with quiet surprise. "It reacts," she said softly. Ryan stepped closer and pressed his own hand against the carvings. This time the glow was stronger. The lines of light spread outward, moving across the entire doorway in slow-flowing patterns. The ground beneath them trembled gently and the air around them grew warmer. The team stepped back, their lamps flickering. The doorway gave a deep sound, not loud but steady, like the echo of distant thunder. A vertical line appeared in the middle, spreading slowly as the massive stone-like doors began to part. Ryan watched in awe. The dome was opening for them. When the gap widened, a cool stream of air flowed outward. It was not the dry air of the desert, but something different, fresh and clean. The scent carried with it a feeling of time long past. Lamps were lifted and beams of light revealed a dark hall inside. The explorers stepped in carefully. Their boots echoed softly against the smooth floor. The chamber was enormous, stretching far into the shadows. Rows of tall figures stood on either side, shining faintly in the light. At first, the team thought they were statues made of metal. But as the lamps moved closer, the truth became clear. The figures were shaped like humans, each one holding a long spear, their bodies covered in golden crystal that caught every ray of light. Ryan felt a shiver of wonder. The warriors were not simple carvings. They were lifelike, each with different faces, different stances, and unique details. Some looked older, with wise expressions. Some looked young, with eyes full of quiet energy. All stood tall, as if guarding the chamber in silence. Lauren whispered, "They are not the same. Each one looks like a real person." The others nodded in agreement. The golden surface gleamed but did not feel like ordinary gold. It had depth, like crystal filled with light. The spears they held were not plain either. Each spear carried flowing lines, glowing softly, as though power rested inside. The deeper the team walked, the stronger the feeling grew. The chamber seemed alive. The air carried a faint hum, gentle but constant, like the sound of a hidden heartbeat. Shadows shifted along the high walls, where carvings showed more warriors marching together, their spears raised toward the sky. At the center of the hall, the explorers found a wide platform. Upon it stood a great circular tablet, half the height of a person, smooth and bright. Strange symbols ran across its surface. Ryan reached out to touch it, but then paused. He felt as if the chamber itself was watching him. He looked around at the golden warriors, their calm faces glowing faintly in the lamplight. They did not move, yet their presence was strong. It was as though they were aware of the visitors and were waiting for something. Lauren placed a gentle hand on the surface of the tablet. The symbols lit up at once, lines of light running outward in circles. A soft sound filled the chamber, like voices whispering in a forgotten language. Ryan held his breath. The glow spread across the hall, moving from warrior to warrior until every spear shone with golden light. The air grew warmer, but it was not uncomfortable. It felt welcoming, almost protective. The team stood in silence, surrounded by the glow. Their scanners beeped rapidly, showing strong energy readings everywhere. Yet the chamber remained calm. No threat appeared, only light and presence. Ryan whispered, "It is not a tomb. It is something greater." Lauren nodded. "Yes, it feels like a hall of guardians." The explorers spent hours studying the chamber. They measured the size, recorded the carvings, and scanned the golden warriors. The results showed that the material was neither stone nor metal. It was something unknown, something that had endured for ages without change. As the hours passed, the golden glow dimmed slightly, leaving only a faint shine across the warriors and their spears. The chamber seemed to return to rest, as if it had only stretched for a moment before closing its eyes again. When the team finally stepped outside, the desert suns were already setting. The sky was painted with deep red and soft blue. The dome behind them stood tall, the doorway still open, but quiet now. Ryan looked back at it and whispered to himself, "This is the beginning of a story much older than us." Lauren heard him and smiled. "And we are the ones chosen to uncover it." The desert night arrived, and the dome shone faintly under the starlight. Inside, the Golden Warriors stood silent, their spears waiting, their faces calm. The chamber had awakened, and the desert world would never again be only sand and silence. The chamber was quiet again. The glow that had spread across the spears was gone, leaving only the soft shine of golden crystal under the lamps. Yet the team felt a change. They had stepped into something greater than a ruin. This was not just a hall of stone. It was a place built with purpose, filled with meaning. Rian walked slowly between the rows of warriors. His footsteps echoed softly, and his lamp revealed faces that looked almost alive. Each warrior was different. Some had strong jaws, others thin features, some had wide eyes, while others looked calm and thoughtful. Their hands held the long spears close to their bodies, as if guarding the silence of the chamber. He raised his hand and touched one of the figures. The golden surface felt smooth and cool, yet it gave a faint vibration as though it carried hidden energy. For a moment, Ryan thought the figure's eyes shone slightly brighter, but when he blinked, the light was gone. Lauren and the others moved carefully along the other rows. They measured the height of the figures, studied the glow of the spears, and compared the symbols carved on the walls. Every detail pointed to one truth. These were not common statues. They were something greater. Lauren said quietly, "The details are too real. Look at the lines on the faces, the folds in the clothing, the shape of the hands. No artist would make each one different unless they were modeled after real people." Ryan nodded. He felt the same. These warriors were not symbols. They were memories of humans who had lived long ago. At the far end of the chamber, they found another platform. On it stood a wide block carved with lines of symbols. Lauren bent down, scanning the writing. "It is similar to old star scripts," she said. "I can read some of it. It speaks of guardians, of chosen ones who gave themselves to protect the legacy of humankind." The word sent a quiet shiver through the group. Guardians, chosen ones, legacy. Each word suggested a story much larger than they had expected. Rian walked back to the nearest warrior and studied the spear more closely. It was long, taller than him, and the golden lines across it seemed alive. He leaned closer and listened. A faint hum was there, steady and soft, like a song buried within the crystal. He whispered, "These are not just weapons. They are something more." Lauren came beside him. She touched the spear gently. Her scanner showed strong energy flowing inside, but no danger. The energy was stable, almost patient, as if waiting for the right moment. The team gathered at the center of the hall again. The circular tablet they had touched before still glowed faintly. They wondered if the tablet was the key to understanding the warriors. One of the younger researchers, named Jorah, asked in a thoughtful voice, "If these are guardians, where are the people they guarded? Who built this chamber, and what did they want us to find?" Ryan looked around at the endless rows of golden figures. "Maybe this chamber itself is the answer," he said. "It is a message that humans once walked far among the stars. They built places like this so their story would not be lost." Lauren added, "And the guardians chose to stay here, not with swords or shields, but with spears of light. They do not look like they fought. They look like they are keeping watch." The explorers agreed. There was no sign of war here. No broken walls, no marks of destruction. Instead, the chamber felt peaceful, as though it had been made to honor and remember. They continued their study for many hours. Every warrior carried a unique pattern on the chest, almost like a mark of identity. Some looked like flowing rivers, others like rising stars. The more they studied, the more they believed that each figure represented a real person who had once stood proudly among their people. When they finally rested near the entrance, the desert suns had already lowered and night covered the land outside. The chamber was quiet again, but its presence was strong. Rian sat near the doorway, his eyes fixed on the long lines of warriors. He thought of Earth, far away across the stars, and of the humans who had left it long ago. Could it be true that they had traveled this far, building chambers like this to preserve their story? He whispered softly, "We are not the first. Others came before us. They walked here and they left us this hall of guardians." Lauren heard him and nodded. "Yes. And now it is our task to understand why they wanted us to find it." The desert wind moved across the sands outside, carrying a low hum that matched the silent hum of the spears inside. The chamber waited quietly, as though the golden warriors were listening. Their calm faces shone in the faint light, and their spears seemed to hold secrets still hidden. The explorers knew they had only touched the surface of the mystery. Ahead lay answers about the guardians, the spears, and the true purpose of the chamber. For now, they felt honored to stand in the presence of the Golden Warriors who had been waiting in silence for countless years. The night inside the chamber felt endless. The explorers set small lamps around the central platform, casting soft light across the golden walls. The figures of the guardians stood silent, their spears shining faintly. Ryan sat near the wide circular tablet, his eyes fixed on the glowing lines. He felt that the tablet was more than a stone. It was waiting to speak. Lauren joined him, carrying her scanner. She brushed dust from the surface and studied the glowing symbols. "These marks are not random," she said. "They are arranged like a story. If we touch them in the right order, they may show us what this place was built for." Ryan leaned closer. The lines curved around each other, forming patterns that looked like rivers meeting at one point. He placed his hand gently on one of the brighter marks. At once the glow spread outward. The symbols connected, forming a ring of light across the tablet. The air grew warmer. A low hum filled the chamber, rising like a hidden voice. The golden warriors around them shone brighter, their spears glowing in rhythm with the sound. The explorers stood still, watching as the light above the tablet rose into the air. A figure appeared, shaped from pure golden light. It was tall, dressed in flowing robes, with calm eyes that looked directly at them. Though the language was ancient, the sound carried meaning. The words were not fully clear, yet their hearts seemed to understand. The figure spoke slowly. "We are the ones who came before. We are children of Earth, travelers among the stars. We built sanctuaries so that our story would remain when our voices could no longer be heard." The explorers exchanged glances, their breath caught in their throats. The figure was human, not alien. It stood proudly, holding no weapon, only a staff that glowed like the spears beside the golden warriors. The figure continued. "The guardians you see before you were once people like you. They chose to remain here, their forms joined with the golden crystal so that they would watch over the legacy of humankind. They are not statues. They are the memory of life preserved for ages." The words touched Ryan deeply. He looked at the rows of warriors with new eyes. These were not silent figures of stone. They were men and women who had once walked the stars, who had given themselves to guard this chamber forever. Lauren's voice trembled slightly as she whispered, "They turned themselves into light and crystal to protect the story of their people." The glowing figure raised its hand. At once, images filled the air above the tablet. The explorers saw visions of ancient ships sailing across the stars, their sails wide like wings of silver. They saw humans standing side by side with beings of other shapes, sharing knowledge and building together. They saw cities of shining towers, rising above oceans and forests on worlds far from Earth. The voice said, "We walked proudly among many, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as keepers of peace. Yet time moved and we could not remain forever. We built chambers such as this where memory and wisdom would wait for those who came after. You who have entered are the children of the same Earth. The chamber opens only to your kind, for it knows your spirit." The explorers stood in silence. Their lamps flickered against the golden light, yet they hardly noticed. They were seeing the past of their own species, hidden in the sands of a quiet world. The figure's voice softened. "This chamber is not a tomb. It is a seed. The guardians did not fall here. They chose to remain, to keep alive the truth that humans are never alone among the stars. Take what you learn, carry it forward, and remember them." The vision slowly faded. The light above the tablet grew weaker until only the faint glow of the symbols remained. The hum in the air softened into silence once again. Ryan let out a slow breath. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes shone with wonder. "It was a message," he said. "They wanted us to remember. They wanted us to know that humanity reached farther than we believed." Lauren placed a hand on the tablet, her face calm yet full of awe. "They trusted us. Even after all this time, they believed we would come." The team gathered together, speaking quietly about what they had seen. Some felt excitement, others felt responsibility. All agreed that the chamber was more than a discovery. It was a call across time, asking them to continue a journey that had been left unfinished. When they stepped out of the chamber later that night, the desert sky was filled with stars. Ryan looked up, and for the first time he did not feel small beneath them. The stars no longer seemed like distant lights. They felt close, like paths waiting to be followed. The dome behind them stood silent once more, but inside the golden guardians kept their watch. Their spears glowed faintly, holding the memory of voices long gone, waiting for the day when humans would once again walk proudly among the stars. The next morning, the explorers returned to the chamber with fresh energy. The memory of the golden figure still lived in their minds. Every word spoken by that ancient voice felt heavy with meaning. They now looked at the rows of golden warriors with new respect. They were not simple statues. They were guardians who had chosen to remain as eternal keepers of knowledge. Rian walked slowly between the rows again, his eyes fixed on the spears. Each one glowed faintly, even though the chamber was quiet. The glow was soft, like a star hidden behind clouds. He paused at one spear that seemed brighter than the rest. It hummed gently as if calling to him. Lauren joined him and studied the markings on the shaft of the spear. "Look at these lines," she said. "They are not only decoration, they are symbols. Each spear is unique, like each guardian was unique." Rian lifted his hand and touched the golden surface. At once the hum grew stronger. A rush of warmth spread through his arm and his eyes closed without his will. He saw visions, not sharp pictures but streams of memory that felt real. He stood on the deck of an ancient starship, its sails wide like silver wings catching invisible currents between the stars. Around him were humans dressed in flowing robes, their faces full of hope. Beyond them were beings of other shapes, tall and small, their hands reaching out in friendship. The vision shifted. He saw green worlds with tall towers shining in the sunlight. He saw bridges stretching between mountains where humans and their companions walked together. He saw children running across open fields under skies filled with twin moons. When Rian opened his eyes again, he gasped. His hand was still on the spear. The chamber around him had not changed, but his heart felt fuller, as if he had carried part of the ancient world inside himself. Lauren looked at him with concern. "What did you see?" Rian took a deep breath. "I saw their journeys. I saw ships across the stars. They were not fighting. They were sharing life, building together. These spears carry memory, not power for battle." The team grew excited. One by one, they tried touching different spears. Each time visions came, some saw great cities of crystal and light. Others saw meetings of humans and other beings where knowledge was exchanged. Every spear carried a different memory, a different piece of history. It became clear that the chamber was not a hall of war. It was a library made of crystal and gold, where the guardians stood as keepers of human memory. Their spears were vessels holding wisdom, waiting for those who would come after. Lauren spoke with quiet wonder. These warriors gave themselves not to guard treasure of gold, but treasure of knowledge. They are teachers across time. The explorers recorded everything carefully. Their scanners tried to capture the energy patterns inside the spears, but no machine could fully translate the visions. The knowledge could only be experienced by direct touch, as if the guardians wished humans to feel their story heart to heart. As the day passed, the explorers noticed something more. The chamber itself responded when they touched the spears. The glow across the walls grew stronger, and the air filled with a low song, almost like distant voices chanting together. The chamber was alive with memory. Rian felt a growing sense of responsibility. This was not built for us to take away. It was built for us to remember and carry forward. Lauren nodded. "Yes, if we remove these spears, the chamber will lose its meaning. It is not meant to be broken apart. It is meant to guide us," the group agreed. They would not disturb the guardians. Instead, they would learn from them and share the knowledge with others who came in peace. As the explorers prepared to leave the chamber for the evening, Rian stopped once more before the glowing tablet. He placed his hand on it, and though no vision appeared, he felt a soft warmth. It was as if the guardians themselves were thanking him for understanding. Outside, the desert sky was clear. The stars shone brighter than usual, as if echoing the visions they had seen. Rian stood quietly, his eyes tracing the constellations. He no longer saw them as cold and distant. Now they were doors, each one leading to a story waiting to be told. Lauren joined him and said softly, "The chamber has given us more than knowledge. It has given us hope." Rian smiled. "Yes, hope that we are not small. Hope that humans once walked proudly among the stars, and that we can do so again." The desert wind carried their words across the sands. Behind them, the dome glowed faintly in the starlight. Inside, the golden warriors stood with their shining spears, silent but full of life. Their memory was now part of the explorers, and the secret of the spears was no longer hidden. The explorers returned to the chamber at dawn. The desert air was crisp and the first rays of the sun reflected softly off the dome. Inside, the golden warriors stood silent, their spears catching the light. The chamber felt calm and patient, as if it had been waiting for the humans to return. Rian walked slowly among the rows of guardians. Each spear hummed faintly when he passed. He could feel the energy flowing from them, not dangerous, but alive and aware. The memory of the visions from the day before lingered in his mind. He understood now that the chamber was more than a library. It was a place of trust, built to guide those who were ready. Lauren and the team gathered at the central platform. The circular tablet glowed faintly. When Rian touched it, symbols shifted and flowed across its surface. The golden figure appeared once more, standing tall and calm. Its voice was quiet but clear. "You have come this far," the figure said. "Now the chamber asks a question. Will you carry the legacy forward? Will you honor the guardians and share their knowledge with the worlds beyond?" The explorers looked at each other. The question was simple yet heavy with meaning. It was not a test of strength or skill. It was a question of heart and purpose. Jorah, the youngest of the team, spoke first. "We have learned so much. If this knowledge is to help others, we must carry it. We cannot leave it hidden," Rian nodded. "But we must remember that the Guardians trusted us. We must be worthy of that trust. We cannot use this for selfish gain." The golden figure's light brightened slightly, as if it recognized their understanding. It did not speak again, but raised its hand toward the rows of warriors. The spears glowed brighter, and the energy in the chamber shifted. It was as if the Guardians themselves were asking the humans to make the choice. The team approached the spears carefully. They did not take them, but they placed their hands gently on the shafts. Warmth spread through their bodies. Each felt visions again, but this time the memories were of guidance, teaching, and hope. The Guardians were showing them how to carry knowledge, not just receive it. Rian felt a strong sense of connection with the ancient humans who had become the Golden Warriors. They were not gone. Their energy and wisdom flowed through the spears, waiting for someone to continue their purpose. Lauren looked around at the team. "We are ready," she said. "We accept the responsibility. We will not misuse the chamber. We will honor the Guardians." As soon as she spoke, a gentle hum filled the chamber. The light of the spears grew steady, flowing in patterns that seemed to match the heartbeat of the explorers. The golden figure nodded, and the symbols on the central tablet glowed brightly for a moment. The chamber responded as if satisfied. The golden warriors' faces seemed even calmer, their spears steady. The energy that had once only hummed softly now felt steady and warm, filling the explorers with a sense of purpose. Rian whispered, "It is done. We have made our choice." The team spent a few more hours walking through the rows of guardians. They studied the patterns, feeling the wisdom stored in the spears. They understood now that the legacy was not just the visions or memories. It was the responsibility to share what they had learned, to guide others with knowledge and hope. When the explorers finally left the chamber, the desert was bright under the midday sun. The dome stood quietly behind them, a silent protector of the golden warriors within. The air was warm and the sand shimmered like gold. Rian looked back at the dome. "We have accepted the legacy," he said softly. "The Guardians trusted us. Now we must live up to that trust." Lauren smiled. "We will. We know their story. We know why they waited for us, and we will carry it forward." The team returned to their shuttle, feeling lighter yet stronger. The desert world stretched endlessly before them, but the chamber had given them direction. The stars above were no longer distant points of light. They were paths waiting to be followed, paths that humans had walked before and paths that humans could walk again. As they lifted off, the dome behind them glowed faintly under the sunlight. Inside, the golden warriors stood in perfect formation, their spears steady, their faces calm. The chamber waited for the next generation, but now it had also passed its trust to these explorers. They were ready to continue the story, to bring the knowledge of the Guardians to the universe beyond. Rian watched the desert fade beneath them. The weight of the chamber and its golden warriors remained in his heart. He felt proud to be part of the journey, proud to carry the legacy forward. The choice had been made, and the adventure of sharing the Guardian's wisdom was only beginning. The explorers returned to their shuttle, leaving the dome behind. The desert stretched endlessly, golden and quiet under the twin suns. The chamber waited in silence, the golden warriors standing calm, their spears gleaming softly. Ryan looked back once more before climbing aboard. He felt a deep sense of peace. The Guardians had accepted them. The responsibility now belonged to humans who had returned to the stars. As the shuttle lifted off, the desert winds stirred the sand, creating waves of light across the dunes. Ryan sat quietly thinking about what they had learned. The Golden Warriors were more than memories. They were teachers, guides, and protectors. The spears carried wisdom, not power. The chamber had chosen them because it believed humans were capable of carrying the legacy forward. Lauren joined him in the cabin. She smiled softly, her eyes bright. "We have a duty now," she said. "It is not just about exploring or recording history. It is about sharing it. Every person we meet, every world we visit should know that humans once walked proudly among the stars." Rian nodded. "Yes, the Guardians gave themselves so that their story would live. We must honor them by continuing what they started." The shuttle moved into orbit above the desert planet. Below, the dome glowed faintly as if bidding farewell. The Golden Warriors remained inside, patient and calm, their spears steady. They would continue their watch, but they had passed the torch. The explorers felt a quiet warmth in their hearts. During the journey back to the research station, the team reviewed the data and memories they had received from the spears. Each vision, each story had been recorded carefully, but they knew that the true value could not be captured by machines alone. The experiences were meant to be felt, shared in words, and remembered by those who understood the importance of knowledge and peace. Rian looked at the stars outside the shuttle window. He remembered the visions of ancient humans walking alongside beings from other worlds. They had shared wisdom, built cities, and explored planets. It was a history lost for many centuries, but now it was alive in their hearts. Lauren spoke softly. "The chamber has shown us that humans are not small. We are part of something larger, something that can last through time. We just have to carry it forward." The team agreed. They felt a sense of hope, not just for themselves, but for humanity. The Golden Warriors had reminded them that even when humans are far from home, they are never truly alone. Their spirit, their courage, and their curiosity travel across the stars. When the shuttle docked at the station, the explorers shared their experiences with the crew and scientists. They described the chamber, the Golden Warriors, and the visions held within the spears. Everyone listened in awe. The story of humans who had built sanctuaries among distant worlds inspired them. Ryan spoke to the gathered team. "This is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning. We have been chosen to carry forward the legacy of the Guardians. We must explore, learn, and share what they wanted us to remember. Knowledge is the real treasure." Over the following weeks, the explorers worked tirelessly. They prepared reports, lectures, and virtual experiences based on the visions from the spears. Every detail of the chamber, every glowing pattern, and every Guardian story was recorded with care. The station became a place of learning, inspired by the lessons of the Golden Warriors. One evening, Ryan returned to the observation deck. He looked at the stars, shining like scattered gems across the dark sky. He imagined the humans of the past, walking proudly on distant worlds, their stories waiting for the day someone would discover them. He thought of the Guardians and their spears. Their memory was alive, flowing through him and everyone who had seen the chamber. Lauren joined him. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "The connection between us and those who came before?" Ryan smiled. "Yes, and now we are part of it too. We carry their story and we will continue it." The desert planet faded behind them, small and quiet from orbit. Yet the dome and its Golden Warriors stood ready, waiting patiently for the next generation. The chamber had chosen humans once, and now it had passed the trust to those who would journey farther into the stars. Rian felt proud and humble at the same time. The legacy was not just about knowledge. It was about hope, unity, and the courage to explore. Humanity had a place among the stars, just as the Golden Warriors had known long ago. The explorers knew their journey had only begun. They would travel to new worlds, share the lessons of the chamber, and inspire others to carry wisdom and peace. The Guardians had shown them the path, and now it was their turn to guide those who would come after. As the shuttle moved deeper into space, the team felt a quiet joy. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were reminders of the humans who had walked proudly, of guardians who had waited patiently, and of a future where knowledge and hope would shine across the universe. Rian closed his eyes and whispered softly, "We are the new guardians." The stars outside reflected their promise. Humanity's story had not ended. It had only grown brighter, ready to reach farther than ever before.